guest speakers. I'm going to go ahead and start with an introductory video about entrepreneurship, and then we'll move into a quick introduction of the panel and move on to questions from there. Okay?
The former investment banker declared that he was going to become the world's biggest online retailer. A university dropout tells us that he will show the consumers which products they want, and then step by step revolutionizes the markets for personal computers, music, and cell phones. In his student digs, a young man designs a comparison portal for female students, which is now the biggest communication platform in the world, connecting millions of people. And an author who by his own account is hindered by dyslexia becomes a pioneer of commercial space travel. Are Amazon's Jeff Bezos, Apple's Steve Jobs, Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg, and Virgin Galactic's Richard Branson extraordinary people? Are they soldiers of fortune, magicians, rare super entrepreneurs who change our lives dramatically? The purpose of research around entrepreneurship is to get to the bottom of this mystery and to explore the seemingly magical about successful entrepreneurs. Successful entrepreneurs are not necessarily male dropouts and secret geniuses. No, the potential for entrepreneurship is in each of us. The entrepreneur we want to send on a journey into an uncertain future is female, and neither a visionary nor a dropout. She doesn't have much money either, and no sudden brilliant idea that she puts into action purposefully. And still, she masters the uncertainty like our super entrepreneurs, because she also uses the entrepreneurial method, consciously or unconsciously. The entrepreneurial method, what's that? If Alice were a manager, she would ask herself, what are my goals and which means do I need to reach them? By contrast, the entrepreneurial method begins with the unique means a person already has. These consist of their identity, competences, and contacts. Beginning with these means, one imagines several possible goals to solve specific problems. It's like cooking without a recipe. The super entrepreneur doesn't choose a specific recipe and buys the necessary ingredients. No. Instead, she could look what she can find in the fridge and then makes up various kinds of possible creations. With entrepreneurship, it's not the goals we focus on in the beginning, but the means. By acting without a single fixed goal, Richard Branson is able to imagine a whole portfolio of goals and possible ventures. After all, he founded Virgin Records and Virgin Airlines before Virgin Galactic. What's also important, business ideas don't originate in the shower, but develop in multiple numbers when applying the entrepreneurial method. The idea is the easiest part of the founding process, and waiting for the right idea can lead to waiting forever. Our entrepreneur is already equipped with everything she needs for founding a business. She just has to get going and design the future. But there's a lack of money, not if Alice acts according to the successful method of the super entrepreneurs. Even Jeff Bezos started on a shoestring and funded Amazon with his parents' guarantees, supplier loans, and overdrawn credit cards. In other words, with his available means. Instead of trying to define the expected return like a manager, our entrepreneur defines her affordable loss. Affordable in a financial, psychological, and social respect. Instead of going on vacation, she starts a venture. In small, explorative steps, she employs the available means. Her money, her time, and other people's trust. If she fails at an early stage and at acceptable cost for her. With her stock of means, her subsequently conceivable portfolio of goals, and her affordable loss, Alice has all the prerequisites to embark on her entrepreneurial journey. But wait, there are other people who are interested in Alice and her venture. Surely they want to steal her idea, so Alice shouldn't talk about her goals under any circumstances. Wrong. What is she going to protect if she herself doesn't know exactly what it's going to look like? She has to talk about her venture to extend her stock of means and her portfolio of goals. Unlike in management, entrepreneurship is not about a win-lose situation along the lines of who gets the largest piece of cake. Neither is it about a win-win situation. Let's make the cake bigger together. In the entrepreneurial present with an uncertain future, the cake has not even been baked yet. Those who want to join become partners, bring in their means and decide together which cake to bake. The common shared goal. They negotiate the future together and co-create the products. By the way, don't we need a business plan with a clear understanding of where the journey is headed? An itinerary like that can be helpful, yes, but sometimes it prevents the journey to India from ending up in America, the promised land. So I'm sailing aimlessly in one direction or the other, depending on the wind. But entrepreneurship is a crapshoot. Granted, luck is one element in the formula of success. But if I act according to the entrepreneurial method, I improve my odds. It's about a learnable routine and dealing with the unexpected. Learnable? But aren't you born to be an entrepreneur? After all, entrepreneurial success is rooted in the genes. Wrong. The entrepreneurial method of our super entrepreneurs can be applied by any of us. Everyone has a unique stock of needs. It's what we make of it that determines the success. Entrepreneurs are made, not born. Even Richard Branson has had more failures than successes in his ventures. Success was only possible by learning from his failures, which prepared him for the uncertainty that awaits him on his journey in his spaceship. Maybe Alice from the entrepreneurial wonderland will be among his first partners, not as a passenger, but as a collaborator in creating the future of the world we live in. Entrepreneurs aren't prophets. They don't have to predict the future. They create it. Ready for your own entrepreneurial journey? Here's a short summary. First, entrepreneurship is not an extraordinary phenomenon, but lies dormant in each of us as an entrepreneurial potential to act. Second, according to the entrepreneurial method, I start with the available means. Who I am, what do I know, whom do I know? Not with mystical goals or fictitious ideas, so there's no reason to wait. Third, as an entrepreneur, I don't submit my actions under one great idea. No. On the basis of my stock of means, I constantly develop my imagination about various possible goals for the solution of specific problems. Fourth, instead of an expected return, what do I want to earn? The upside potential, I define an affordable loss, the downside potential, and ask, how much is it worth to me? How much can I afford to lose? Fifth, I don't keep my ideas secret, but exchange my goals on the basis of my means with others. The business idea is the cheapest. There are so many ideas. My stock of means is the most valuable thing in the entrepreneurial process. So, 6. Co-creation develops with the additional means and the new goals of the partners. 7th. Business plans most likely do not reduce uncertainty, but surely prevent reaching unplanned yet desirable goals. 8th. Luck is a part of entrepreneurial success. But with the entrepreneurial method, I turn the wheel of fortune more often. 9th, we're not born as entrepreneurs, but can learn to deal with uncertainty. 10th, if you co-create the future as an entrepreneur, you don't have to predict it. Science has many parallels to entrepreneurship. Scientists also experiment to get to the bottom of something new or to create something new. Our entrepreneur Alice is called Sarah Sarasvathy in entrepreneurship research. She's the discoverer of the entrepreneurial method. Other researchers contribute their means and goals to comprehend the phenomena of entrepreneurship, where new things develop under great uncertainty. What will the entrepreneurial society of the future look like? Don't wait for it. Co-create it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Today's Money Smarts for Teens class. I'm Ryan Trainer, and over there's my associate, Bryce Stevens. We're part of the Redwood City Youth Literacy Council, and we're the group that's putting on this class for you today. Our sponsors are the Redwood City Library Foundation, and this class is is the third in a series of 9 classes that change the theme each month. This month is about starting and running a successful business. Next month is about spending smart. If you haven't signed up for all the upcoming months, do it today because most of them are already full, but you can still sign up on the wait list online. So keep in mind that these classes are offered for free for you because of a grant we received from State Farm Youth Advisory Board, and especially from the total volunteer work of the coordinators. Today, these business owners have given up their time to speak with you about running a successful business. Let's give them a quick round of applause for dedicating their free time to helping us learn about Money Smarts. One important housekeeping tip for today. You could please help us out by cleaning up any mess prior to leaving. That would help a lot. Remember, we're all volunteers here. We're going to be serving pizza at the end of today's session. And let me introduce you now to our panel of local business owners. Let's start first with Martha Trainer, our moderator. While holding down a full-time job in banking for 25 years, she also ran some of her own businesses on the side, including jewelry, marketing, consulting, and eBay selling. She will introduce the rest of the panel. Thank you.
First person I'd like to introduce to you, a good friend of mine, is Jeffrey Gray. He's with Gray's Paint Stores. Jeffrey Gray is president of Gray's Paint Stores. They have 4 family-owned retail paint stores on the peninsula in Burlingame, San Mateo, Redwood City, and Menlo Park. Gray's Paint Stores employs 28 full-time employees, and their net sales exceed $10 million per year. Mr. Gray has been working for Gray's Paints for just over 30 years. His work experience includes working in a hardware store during high school, installing garage doors during college, and having his own business of small home repair and repainting. He has a bachelor's degree in organizational psychology with a minor in human resource management, and he has also completed a number of courses working towards his master's degree in organizational management. Thank you, Jeff. John Moyer. John Moyer is president of Johnstone Moyer Incorporated. John and his firm have successfully managed construction of over $2 billion of mixed-use, multifamily, transit-oriented, urban, infill, residential construction in California. His area of expertise is providing comprehensive pre-construction services for Type 5 and Type 3 wood and light gauge metal frame construction. Ooh, that's a mouthful. John has introduced new structural systems such as the ConX-Tech system for Type 1, 3, and 5 applications. I'm sure he can tell you all about those. Prior to starting Johnstone Moyer Incorporated 13 years ago, John was a vice president with Bovis Lynn Lease. His career has included such high-profile projects such as Santana Row in San Jose, the Science and Engineering Quad at Stanford University, major building programs for Princeton and Rutgers University, and the historical renovation of the New Jersey State House. John holds a BS in electrical engineering from the State University of New York. Russell Vigoris. Russell Vigoris is the owner of Progression Financial Incorporated, which is a mortgage brokerage firm that specializes in home loans. They are an independent lender that uses a dozen different banks. Progression Financial has been in business for 23 years. Dana Marr, she's with Pickle Clothing, Peace Bank Yoga Studio, and Active Agi. And if you have been anywhere on Broadway in downtown Redwood City, that's where all those stores are. Dana Marr is the owner of Pickle Clothing, Peace Bank Yoga Studio, and Active Hockey. Prior to this, she was a buyer at Nordstrom. I'm sure a lot of people in here would love to have that job. Pickle Clothing is a women's clothing store that has been open almost 12 years. And both Peace Bank Yoga Studio and Activagi, a women's activewear boutique, have been open for around 5 years each. All three businesses are located on Broadway in Redwood City. Steve Penna is with Spectrum Magazine and is a marketing and advertising consultant. Steve Penna is a lifelong Redwood City resident and has been active in the community his whole life. Working as a self-employed marketing and advertising consultant, Mr. Penna works with several local and regional businesses, including the San Mateo Daily Journal, Patch.com, Peninsula Media, Coldwell Banker, and the American Broadcasting Company, ABC. Mr. Penna is the owner and publisher of the Spectrum magazine. And I believe you brought some samples in case you guys would like to bring that home. This is Redwood City's monthly magazine. It is the largest distributed publication in Redwood City with over 12,500 monthly readers, with almost 2,000 of those paid subscribers. Mr. Penna and the Spectrum magazine have been awarded the San Francisco Bay Area Press Club Award for News Stories of the Year, first place for a story of serious nature for his article, Please Shut Down DUI Checkpoint, and first place for his column, As I Was Saying, several times. Armando Argueta you probably know him from the other sessions. He is in charge of business banking at Wells Fargo Bank, and he has in the past owned several of his own businesses as well. Armando, did you want to add anything to that? So you'll notice that on your chairs there is a Forbes entrepreneurship questionnaire. I don't want you to fill this out now, but it's for you to bring home. I wanted you to have something to see whether or not you fit the bill for possibly having the type of personality that would make you a good entrepreneur. And this is something that is widely used. It's very quick. It's just the 15 questions. You count the number of yeses, and then you look at the scale on the end. So if you are curious whether you should start your own business or run your own company, this might be a good opportunity for you to see that. It does say to think about how you act in your current job, and I know a lot of you don't have jobs right now. So just think about the way you act in your groups at school, different teamwork exercises, say if you're on swim team, football, or whatever, or any part-time jobs that you have. They want you to really focus on how you actually interact instead of the way you think you interact, because those two things may not be the same. Okay? So I'd like to kind of just start with the panel, if I may, and have you answer one of the two following questions. What led you to start your own business? Or the main reason why I think running my own company versus working for someone else works for me is because why? Jeffrey?
Thank you all for coming, everyone. My situation was a little unique from the standpoint of the first question. I didn't start our business, it's a family business. What I've done is expanded our business. So when we started, we had one store. I've added the other three since my career as employee. What inspires you to want to take on those challenges? There's a lot of that's internal. The challenge of it all is certainly an interesting perspective to look at. But more importantly, we needed to expand our business in order to survive in this market. As one store, we would be easy to be picked off. A competitor would come in, move in right next door to us, and we would probably not be able to cover that very well. So expansion was a key part of our preservation. So we have 4 stores now. My goal is to have 7 by the time I'm done. And what happens to the business at that point, it is questionable. Could it get purchased? Could it be handed down to one of my family members? There's a lot of different avenues there. So I welcome any questions that you guys have at any point. So thank you.
Okay, those are 2 good questions, and I think did that for about 1.5 years and realized that they're making a lot of money on me and I'm leaving a lot of money. So that's why I went out on my own. And I haven't had a paycheck since 1985. Probably many of you weren't even born yet. But the nice thing about being on your own is you can create whatever you want. Saw the video, whatever you want to do, you can do. And it's a lot of work, but it's yours. And no one can take it from you. And that's what excites me. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I have a great family. I played golf this morning. I went to work in the afternoon. I don't punch a clock. I'm on my own. But then the phone rings on Sunday too. So there's a trade-off. But that's the thing about being self-employed is there's different things. And one of the things I love is I don't have to be somewhere at 8 o'clock in the morning. I can get to work at 10. I can stay at home and work. So those are kind of the things that excite me about being self-employed and being able to control my destiny.
Hi everyone. So for me, why did I start my own business? I actually been in retail, seems like forever. After I got out of college, I started retail and then worked for Nordstrom, and I've learned a lot about buying and realized that my passion in life had to do with clothing, whether it was designing it, selling it, wholesaling it, whichever. So when it came to thinking about opening my own store, I looked at it as a way for me to creatively express myself. Having my own store, I could go out and buy whatever clothes I wanted for the store, create it to look however I wanted it to look. I understood customer service, so it was an opportunity to do that part. It's kind of taking everything I had done in my past and brought it all together. And it's worked out so well. I really enjoy it. I also enjoy being my own boss. Not to say that you don't work as hard as everyone else. Sometimes you work even harder, most of the time. But the line kind of becomes blurred as to what's work and what's fun. It kind of becomes a lifestyle. People say, well, you must work a lot, and I don't really feel like I work a lot because I enjoy what I do. So I think that's kind of, for me, the magic bullet. And if you can find where your talent is and what you enjoy, then you thrive and you want to do it all the time. Thank you.
Thank you guys for asking me here today. My story is similar to what you've heard. I was in the media business for about 15 years, and I started taking over the San Mateo Daily Journal and the Berkeley Daily Planet. And was going through a phase in my life where I had people working under me, I had a commitment to the company I was working for, and I was absolutely miserable getting up at 7 o'clock every morning and having to be there till 7 o'clock every night. So I got into my head that I wanted to continue being in the field that I am because I love the occupation of informing people, and I love the occupation of socializing and being in a community. And my main goal was to get back into Redwood City because the main focus of the Daily Journal is San Mateo and Burlingame, and obviously Berkeley was Berkeley. And I wanted to get back into Redwood City, so I thought we have several daily newspapers here. We don't have a publication that focuses on Redwood City people, places, and activities. So I thought I would have a monthly magazine, and virtually got the idea, called 10 of my loyal advertisers and asked them each if they would spend X amount of dollars per month for me to launch this magazine, and all of them said yes. And I was told by everybody that we would not succeed, and here we are on our 10-year anniversary. I absolutely love my job. I absolutely love the lifestyle that I have. I would say the biggest thing that you have to take on when you're an entrepreneur or owning your own business is that when you are working for somebody else, you have the luxury of going into an office or whatever they provide for you, and you don't have to pay for the desk that you're working on. You don't have to pay for the phone, the pencils you use. You don't have to pay for the supplies, the Xerox machine. When you're self-employed, you have to pay for absolutely everything. So that's been the hardest challenge for me to adapt to. But obviously 10 years later, I've created a pretty good business and a secure business, and never thought in my life that I would have the opportunity to be self-employed and to be successful. And if you can finagle it, it is the best life possible. Because like they said, you know, a friend calls me who I haven't seen in years and says, I'm in town, let's go over to Half Moon Bay and have lunch, da-da-da. I can be flexible enough and I can take off and do that, knowing that I'm probably going to be up till 2 o'clock in the morning, but you have that flexibility. And you have the flexibility to work around your social life, and it's just absolutely a fantastic business opportunity to have if you can do it.
It does.
All right, there we go. Well, I'm going to try to keep you guys awake here, make mine a little bit more fun. What started? I know it's at the end of a panel here, so I know what it's like. It's been a long day for me too. So, but what made me really start my own business really goes back to when I was about 8 years old, and my father had a shoe shine kit, and I would go ahead and shine shoes for the neighbors and everybody and things like that, and always had a desire of making money and trying something different. And during my years a little later, we had a thing called newspaper. I don't think you guys know what that is anymore. There's a lot of things going online now, but we used to go out and deliver newspapers and do different things like that in order to make money. So I always enjoyed kind of buying things myself, and my mom would hand me down jeans from my 3 older brothers, and I wanted a brand new pair, and with 4 kids, you had to afford your own things. So I learned how to do that. So I worked on fishing boats and used to smell like fish all weekend, and then go work at a restaurant and smell like the garbage that came off the fish on the weekends. And started working construction when I was about 14 years old, and always had a desire for it, love for it. And in my profession, you kind of go different ways and things that you do. And I decided to go through, after college and everything, in a totally different direction than what my degree's in. I'm an electrical engineer, but I'm a general contractor now. And my mind always led me back to liking to build things and liking to create things, really using that creative side of my brain and not just doing the way everyone else is taught. And just like school, I had a big problem because I was always thinking of things way outside the box that my teachers 35 years ago couldn't understand. Today, they look at it and go, wow, you're creative. And I took a business model that is very type A personality, everyone's high focus, high energy, and we do it that same way because that's how everyone's been taught. I went into business 13 years ago and just tore my house down up in Redwood City. My wife was pregnant with our second son at a 9-month-old, and I told her, by the way, I'm quitting a vice president's job from a very large international company to go create this company that will be a very different construction company that is something that no one else has really done. And we've taken a lot of creative minds. I have about 90 employees in Northern California, about 10 down in Southern California, and we've created something that has turned into one of the top construction firms in the state of California in a very relatively short period of time. What separates us is that we think outside the box. We do things very differently. Things like, I like to look at things as visionary a little bit. Our job sites now, we're doing things of having large 80-inch screens inside our trailers, and instead of having big sets of blueprints, everything's on my iPad. I can see everything on there. our guys out in the field are doing things on their cell phones and, you know, using today's technology. And we're already thinking, doing think tank stuff of what can we do next to be that next new idea. And I think what happens is you have that desire to continue to learn and really, you know, take it to another level. The other question here was main reason of not working for someone else. It's probably just in me since I've been a young child that I had that desire. So hopefully a bunch of you have that same desire.
Hi guys, welcome back. So I've actually come from a family of entrepreneurs. I remember growing up and watching my grandfather. He was actually in construction, and my mother, I think she's now in her 5th business that she's either started or gotten it through acquisition. But for myself, I've actually been a part of starting 4 businesses of my own, and I'm actually currently in the process of starting a 5th. Now, the one thing that I've always liked about business is the freedom to express your own ideas. And in my current role, obviously you guys know I work at Wells Fargo. My role is as a business banker. As a business banker, I get to talk to people like on this panel of all types of businesses. What's cool about that is the strategy piece. Every business has a strategy. Every business has a particular goal. And the question always is, how are we going to get there? So being kind of in that boardroom setting or being the decision makers is just really thrilling. And I've always felt that, just personally, I've always felt like we can do things much better, as opposed to, you know, when people say think outside the box. I mean, I don't even believe that there is a box, but I've always looked at how to do things better and more effectively. So why I like business is really just, there's a passion there, and always, like I said, the strategic piece that comes with it, especially in my current role, and the current business that I'm looking to start is actually along the lines of advisory as well. So, thank you.
Okay, now we want to open it up to the audience. You're welcome to ask a specific member of the panel to answer, or if you want them all to just quickly touch on it, that's fine too. So who would like to start? Yes.
Well, I was just wondering, what would you say are the top 3 skills needed to be a successful entrepreneur?
Okay, so he asked, what are the top 3 skills needed to be a successful entrepreneur or business owner?
I'll give you one. Don't be afraid of failure. As an entrepreneur, you will fail. You will lose money. It's how you recover and how your desire to continue to win and succeed.
I'd probably say being a risk taker, financial security, whether it be momentarily or for the future, you have to have either financial backing or some sort of means to back your dream. And then just a dream, just a goal and a dream that you have, because you have to kind of, I mean, that's why we do the things that we do, because we want to progress our lives and get to the next level. So you have to have some sort of dream to get there. So that's probably for me what is the dream.
I would also add that at the beginning, you have to put in a lot of hours. So we have to pick something that's kind of like applying to colleges. You have to be passionate about it, because there'll be times where literally you'll stay up all night to meet a deadline. And, you know, it's your money on the line and your risk, so, but you love it, so that's why you do it.
Just one last thought was, it's your vision. There's going to be a lot of naysayers. There's going to be a lot of people that say, or that tell you why you can't or shouldn't do it. but you should be passionate in here for that thing that you want. And that's what's going to carry you through the tough times.
The thing that pops into my head is creative problem solver, and probably just being creative in general, of looking at things, kind of like they were speaking of, outside of the box, or looking at it in a different way. How can you do it differently, or do it the way that other people haven't done it? What makes you unique or authentic?
One word I would say is desire. Really excited about something. And it's amazing. I always look back when I was your age, high school, I lived in San Francisco, and I used to wash windows. I learned how to wash windows when I was younger. And I had these routes. I'd go over to North Beach, and I'd have a couple of stores, and I'd wash windows. And what's funny is you walk in a store and you say, you need your windows washed, you talk, you converse, you give them a price, you do the windows, you get paid. Well, it's the same thing when I'm sitting down with someone buying a $3 million house. What do you need? What can I help you with? So, to bring all that back, it's the same. You're selling yourself, you're selling a service, and your desire of wanting to help someone, and they know you're going to help them, is really what makes it all fly.
I would say don't underestimate the importance of education. We never stop learning. I'm rarely the smartest person in the room, but what I lack in intelligence, I make up through competence. And that competence is my education background. So education seems like an end to a means. I just need to get through college and that can be my own thing. I can tell you that education will never end. It should never end.
How do you overcome the obstacle of competing with like pre-established businesses?
The question is, how do you overcome the obstacle of competing with already established businesses? Good question.
I can take that.
Yes, if you want to move in next door?
Yes. Competition is going to exist at one level or another, either as you're entering a business or it's going to come to you once you've been in business. You know, the old story, you have to know your enemy. I don't want to consider my competition as my enemy, but they do provide a lot of information. You have to do things differently. There's what they call saturation points where, you know what, Redwood City or Menlo Park doesn't need yet another store that sells shoes, trees, whatever that is. So you've got to be able to do things at a different level that capitalizes on weaknesses of your competitors. Customer service is usually a big part of that. Quality of product is always a big part of that. Willingness to put in the time and the energy, being available to your customer, those are all things that are big parts of that. I could go on to that list for literally hours. There are so many different avenues for that. So I wouldn't worry so much about what your idea and what how you want to enter a business, but there's a lot about knowing who your competition is, and maybe location is an issue there. You know, so maybe Menlo Park's not the right choice. You go into San Carlos instead. So that's
My business, I do home loans, and you can walk. I'm in San Carlos. You can walk down the street. My friends at Wells Fargo, 100 yards from me, Union Bank, Bank of America, probably 6 banks that do the same thing I do. But I'm an independent. I place loans at over a dozen different places. I need to know what products are out there and be able to compete with the big guys, and I have. And why do I survive? Service, taking care of people, working nights, working weekends, doing whatever, taking care of real estate agents, building true relations, and they know you're going to take, when they refer their client to you, you're going to take care of them. So it's just really taking care of people. And the competition, yes, is there competition? Yes. But there's also a lot of business for everyone. And if you have the right mindset and feel positive about it, you can make it happen.
Relationship building and trust and honesty are so important when you're starting your own business, because no one's going to invest their time or their dollars or anything into you if they don't feel comfortable with you and and they don't feel like they have some sort of relationship with you.
I'll give you a great example. When I first started with my company, I had about 5 or 6 really well-established competitors that have been doing it 20 years longer than I have, and we were the new kids on the block. And what we did is we figured out what our clients really wanted and what services that they desired, and we focused ourselves on being better and raising the bar higher than anyone else. As I said earlier, a lot of people were stuck in just that's how we've always done it. A lot of my clients have that desire of taking on a new way of doing things. There must be a better way of doing it. And when we found those certain items, that's what separated my company completely away from all my competitors. And now we're viewed as the people that are on top of the hill, that all those folks are now trying to copycat. Don't be afraid of them trying to copycat. Be passionate about what you do, and you will stay at that top.
So I think the main thing there is differentiate your product, make yourself special and stand out. Yes?
What was your main means of advertising?
What has been your main means of advertising to get the word out about your businesses?
It's called reputation. We don't advertise in any form at all. Everything that we've done, no, it's because of our business. And it's interesting because 75% of my work is repeat business, and almost all of it is word of mouth of, hey, we've seen what it is. The best form of advertisement for me, believe it or not, is people driving by and seeing my sign somewhere and saying, wow, that job looks great. I would say that's the biggest form of advertising for my business.
Advertising has changed a lot over the last probably 10 years. Initially, when I first opened, we did advertising through direct mail, you know, the mailboxes that you have that people get mail, or used to. And that's changed over the years. Now we do mostly Facebook. Our website has been really important. Anything online, social media. Not to take away from the whole idea of reputation being number one. Probably word of mouth, customers coming in and having a good experience and telling their friends is the best advertising. But outside of that, what you can control, probably Facebook right now is number one for us. So.
And you have to remember that advertising changes with each product or each business that you're in. Obviously, we are a source of advertisement for other companies because we're a magazine. But we have to advertise as far as myself. I have to get out into the community. So that's a form of advertising. I have to be involved with the community. I have to attend social events. I know it sounds leisurely, but it is a lot of work. And again, reputation. In this area, I'm piggybacking on when he said that, do you know what a newspaper is? We're really fortunate in San Mateo County that we are very, very strong in newspaper business here. We have 5 daily newspapers here that are all surviving and that are all having multi-million dollars in revenues every year. Us alone, we're very healthy financially, and we're just in Redwood City. So people are reading, but it mattered on a state level, people are not reading. Like USA Today, their circulation has dropped over 1 million readers in 5 years. That's huge. But on a local level, people are still picking up that because that's the information you cannot get online. You know, if you want to know what your neighbor's doing, if you want to know who's been arrested, if you want to know those type of things, you're going to pick up the local newspaper, and that's why we're thriving so strong in San Mateo County.
Yeah.
What are the first signs of like your business being successful, and what are the first signs that your business will not really?
So what are the first signs that your business is successful, and what are the signs that your business is not working out?
You can take your kids out to lunch. Or you can't.
It's usually sales.
Yeah, so.
Current numbers, if your sales aren't good and they're not increasing and getting better, you're not able to raise the rent, you're whatever, usually a pretty good indication. And repeat customers, if you have a customer come in and then they come back the next week and then they come back with their friends, that's a sign that you're doing well. If they never come back again.
I mean, the normal rule is, you know, you get through the first 5 years, okay, you have these ups and downs, you're gonna have, it's when you can really stabilize, is what I would say is, you know, you've gone through an up cycle in the economy, you've gone through a down cycle, and if you can get through those two cycles and have a successful business, the probability is probably a 90% that you're going to continue to succeed with your business. You know, when you get into other businesses, like for example, I went outside my marketplace of what I do, the sector that I'm in, and went in and did a lot of retail tenant improvements. I failed miserably. I've lost millions of dollars doing it, okay? And when you realize it, and you analyze the numbers, and you realize that, wow, we're not making money doing this particular type of work, we cut it off very quickly. And we just will not go back into that particular sector. On the flip side, I've started other development businesses that I've now purchased buildings and I've made millions of dollars off of them in a 1-year period. So it's knowing your product, and again, it's when it's not working and your desire is not there, you've probably realized you don't have anything else to put into the gas tank anymore.
I think one of the key messages there is never become complacent about what you're doing. If you're in a retail business, 15% of my retail customers die or move out of the area every single year. And if you become complacent about your customer base and their needs, it's not going to take long for that to erode your business to the point that you have to start making some major changes. The complacency thing is, you know, it's key. You have to be, you know, thinking about your business as a living source at all times. And it needs energy, and it needs new people, and sometimes it needs new locations, and sometimes it needs new inventories, sometimes it needs new product lines, sometimes it needs who knows what, but if you don't have your eye open to that kind of thing at all times, you're going to find that, you know, your business will erode. And erosion is exactly that. It's a disappearance or something. So you know, stay active in your community, stay active in other businesses that you compete against. I shop my other businesses, you know, Kelly Moore's and the Home Depot's and the Orchard Supply, you know, constantly. I need to know what they're doing so that I'm ready should they do something different.
I'll just say one other thing. Also, when I was watching the film that we were just watching, it talked about how when you start a business, you should have a business plan. And in that business plan, you will outline for yourself what success is for you. I mean, we're all talking about monetary success, but there's other ways to, you know, gauge what the success of your business is. And it may not be that financial success is how you think success is. I mean, it is for me in a certain way, but I have other things that are higher priorities for me as far as financial success goes in certain products that I'm dealing with. So I think that the component of having a good business plan and being honest with yourself when you develop that business plan is very important.
I'm not a student, but something I noticed in all of your intros was that each of you have at one point had supplement jobs, either as a teenager or as a young and so my twofold question is, how important are those supplemental jobs before you became an entrepreneur? And also now in today's world where you are basically in school from 9 to 3 or 3:30 and having homework and having after school activities and studying for
question is relating to you guys right now as you sit in your chairs. She's asking, how important is it to have those beginning jobs that led them to what they're doing today? And also with today, with being in school all day and then having extracurricular activities, it's kind of difficult to have part-time jobs. I think when we did surveys in the past sessions, about 50% of the class would have had at one time a part-time job, and a lot of that was babysitting and some things like that. So I think they want to know, you as an employer also, you know, how important is this time in their lives as far as employment and how it relates to future opportunities?
I think it's very important. I mean, some of you in this room babysit, some of you cut lawns, some of you do odd jobs for people. All those little things, you think they're nothing, but they're all, you're learning your communication skills, you're connecting with people, you're learning what people want. They tell you what you want and you do what they want and they're happy, and then they say, go see my neighbor, I got more work for you. And all of a sudden, it's like the babysitting. If some of you in here have turned down jobs because you're good and they want you back, but you want to do things with your friends. That's how it is. So even though you think it's trivial now, it's very similar, like I was explaining the washing the windows thing. Just communicating, being able to connect with people, and being able to look in their eyes and talk to them is very important.
I think it's important to, you know, that job before you get to what you want to do. Whenever people say they want to have their own store, I always tell them, well, I have to work for someone else first. I learned how to make mistakes about buying on Nordstrom's dime. So by the time I had my own business, I knew a little bit more of what I was doing. I don't know how important it is to have a job in high school. I came from a position where my dad would not let me work during high school, so I kind of wanted a job, but that wasn't to say I didn't work at doing other things. I wanted, when I was younger, a swimming pool in the backyard, and he said, well, you can go dig it if you want, but we're not putting a pool. So I got rocks and I put a hole, I started digging, it didn't last too long, but it sounds like if you want something and going after it. I don't know if it necessarily has to be a job that you have, but it's kind of figuring out what your passion is and what you enjoy.
When we talk about, you know, work and things like that, there's other forms of work that, you know, you may not be compensated for that are important. And a lot of your lives are busy. I have an 11-year-old boy and a 13-year-old boy. And, you know, I look in between their karate and Boy Scouts and everything else in between. It's busy, I get it. But they do other work, okay? They have responsibilities of cleaning up after the dog, taking care of guinea pigs, setting the table at night, doing dishes. You know, those are all work habit items, and I think it's a work ethic when you are out of school and you're starting to get into the workforce. For example, like some of you might be in scouting, and if I see someone that made an Eagle Scout, I realize the commitment it took them to get to that point, and I will automatically interview them because they have a great attitude, work ethic. It could be, you know, you being the best at one of the activities that you're doing. I think that's more important than, you know, going out and cutting lawns. If you can do that, I think that's wonderful. But I think it's the ethic of what you put into it. So.
And me personally, I started babysitting when I was 11 and ended up taking a job at 14 at Dairy Queen, and then kept taking each job and leveling up higher and higher and higher. And with each job, you learn things. I mean, even today, if I went into Dairy Queen, I could do that little curlicue on the top. It's something that you end up, becomes part of you. And there's little lessons that you learn, how to make change, how to communicate with customers, how to make eye contact, that you may not even realize at the time, but those are skills that you'll carry with you forever. And so whether it's in a job, a part-time job that you may think is menial, you'll learn lessons in them that will mean something later on. Okay, next question. Ryan?
If you could describe your life as an entrepreneur in one word, what would it be?
If you could describe yourself as an entrepreneur in one word, what would it be?
Passion.
Ray said passion,
Passionate.
passionate,
Desire.
desire,
Visionary.
visionary,
Unbelievable.
unbelievable. I love your positive attitude.
I would say passionate also. I think that is why I do it. Even if I didn't make money, I would still do what I do.
Passionate.
It's awesome.
Awesome.
Really is.
Okay, anybody else?
Oh, come on, you guys.
Yes.
Okay, so part of entrepreneur, what happened with supply and demand. So I mean, I know where your stores are on Broadway, and you have to cater to the community in some sort of sense to be able to succeed. So I don't know if you could just like elaborate on your business.
That's a really good question.
Hold on, let me repeat that. She was talking about supply and demand, and Dana's stores are on Broadway, and so she has to cater to the community, and she wanted to talk a little bit about how she caters to the community in this regards.
That really is a good question. When I decided to open a store in Redwood City, there was nothing in Redwood City. So I use the word visionary. I wanted there to be more regional downtown. I live in Redwood City, and I'd always done the city club, so I like the area. And saw a space. And it's interesting, I've taught classes where I tell people, know your customer before you open a store and who exactly they are and all that. Well, I went to market buying clothes for the store that I really didn't know who was going to come in. Because there weren't a lot of people downtown, and there wasn't other retail that I could really compare it with. But after probably the first day, even first week, I had a pretty clear idea of who the customer was. I was there all the time. So when they came in, I was there to greet them and help them, and what do you like, and what do you want. So from there, it really grew. And so the supply and demand part is really important. If you're buying what you like, if I bought everything in the store for my preference and what I like, I probably would have a successful business. I have to figure out what other people want and what the demand is. So that's really an important component of any business, is figuring out where the need is and what your customer wants. Does that answer your question?
One other comment on that, don't be afraid to reinvent yourself and adapt. Like, when we had down market, we changed our business plan a little bit to adapt. And even though our sales were down, our profitability was higher than when our sales were up, because we recreated a different approach in how we were doing things. So don't be afraid of doing that, because it goes back to, you'll either learn from it or you will be successful at it.
Figure out what doesn't work.
Exactly.
Okay? Yes.
How long did it take your company to turn a profit?
How long did it take your companies to turn a profit?
Mine was 1 month.
I've done pretty quick, I would say, within 3 months.
Within 3 months, you said, in case you need to do that. Now, Steve, you lined up people in advance though, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty key. One of the videos I thought about showing is what to do to start your own business before you quit your job. And it was very entertaining. Anybody else?
2 years.
2 years?
2 years when I married my wife, she was making good money, so I was able to take that risk and start something where I didn't make any money for a while. And that's what's really, most businesses fail in the first couple of years, because it's really hard to get going, but it took about 2 years to get the ball rolling.
About 8 years for us. We did the challenging thing of starting a business after 3 years, opening a second store. The second store sucked all the money out of the first store, which was pretty common. So it took longer to get clear. But that's part of the risk taking part of it.
So a follow-up on this, I guess, is my question. How would you financially plan to cover that period of time when you weren't going to be making
Mine was credit cards.
credit cards?
I got a line of credit on my house.
On a credit on our house, you said.
I use my wife.
Very good.
She,
Very well.
No, it was I started out really small. I started out in San Francisco I rented an office for $200 a month from this real estate company, and I get to use their copier, and I did that for 6 or 8 months. Then I got a little bigger space, and as I made a little more, I got a little bigger, and then I was really conservative. I would pay cash for all my stuff, my desks, my fax machine, everything I had, I paid, my computer, everything I had, I paid cash for. I didn't want any debt. So if I didn't make any money, I didn't have any overhead. Or I had minimal overhead. So that's what got me through that first starting phase. But one thing to remember is you're going to have those types of years that are tough. You're going to have big years. You're going to have great years. But you got to remember when those years are great, you're going to have bad years again, or it's going to slow down. And so many people make the fatal mistake of thinking it's going to last forever. It's going to be like this, and 2 or 3 years you're on top of the world, and you can see it around here in the last 10 years. And man, it turned and down it went, and it was ugly for 3, 4, 5 years, and now it's coming into a good time.
I would say it's a relationship with the bank for us, and having that ability to have a line of credit. But it was an interesting story when I had a developer that went under, and basically it took me for about $500,000 that I was out of pocket on, and I had to come up with a way of making payrolls and doing things like that. And when I first came into my industry, my first boss back in New York, I explained to him what was going on, and I thought the business was going to fail. And he sent me out a blank check and basically said, write in the amount that you need. And I literally borrowed $100,000 from him in order to keep the company going, because he believed that we were different and would be very successful. And we paid it back within a month or 2 after that. But if without that relationship and having that person behind me, it would have failed.
Another question? I think this will be our last one. Ryan, can you read out the feedback slides? Was there some? We'll do 2 then.
Okay, when there's like competition, you kind of have to get better than them. How do you decide how you're going to learn?
Okay, when you have competition and you want to differentiate yourself from them, how do you decide how you're going to do that?
For us, it was never about what we thought. It's always about what our customer needs.
So focus on the customer needs.
You've got to ask the questions. You've got to ask your customers what it is. What is it that I don't provide you that you need? Is it more parking? Is it blocking materials out to your car? Is it a coffee machine? You never know how it's going to be, or how significant it is. But the important thing is, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm the person that can get it done. But if I had to create all the ideas, it would be 4 stores that just look like me. And that's, I have different customer bases in each one of my stores. You cater to different things. Each store has its own capacity to do that.
I think sometimes you can get really caught up too in what your competition's doing, and get, if you get so concerned with that you take your eye off of your business, that can be a negative thing. I think a lot of times if you focus on what you do best and really be the best at that, and not always kind of look behind you, I think sometimes that's
Yes.
So, you guys mentioned about having, is there ever a point at which you think
Great question.
Okay, his question was, everyone had talked about going out and finding funding. Was there ever a point that you had to turn down the money because you found the relationship that you had worked in was detrimental to your business?
Yes, we had a point where several years ago, I had an investor that wanted to basically buy my company for quite a bit of money, and I would have lost control eventually of everything that I believed in and I was doing. And I decided that it wasn't worth the extra amount of money. I stayed true with my dream, and I've gotten to that plateau now on my own. And it was worth it.
I know you have a partner. Has that ever been an issue where bringing someone in a partnership where you have your company?
That's a great point. That's a great question. I'm very fortunate to have a business partner. He's about 13 years older than me. He was actually my boss in my previous company. And we have known each other about 30 years. We originally were going to have a third person be part of our company in the beginning, of which he and I both elected not to do it because our personalities would not have gone together. What works well, because my business partner and I complement each other. We do not do the same items within the business. He runs a different part of it than what I run. However, what makes us successful is that we will always come together to make a decision together, and not one of us just making a decision on our own. So, great question.
What about dealing with family, Mr. Gray? I know that, for instance, my husband and I, we could never work together. We work very, very differently, even down to hanging a picture on the wall. We do things very, very differently. So I'm just curious how it's been with the family business and whether there are special challenges that are related to that.
Yeah, I think if you had my dad here, he would have probably a different opinion about this topic. I worked for my dad and worked for my dad every day of my life for the last 30 years. I'll tell you that in order to know who a good partner is, you have to know who you are first. And it's not an easy question to answer at 18, 20, 25, 41, 38, whatever that age is. But you have to understand that it's a relationship. It's as important as having a roommate. It's as important as having a wife or a spouse. It's as important as having a family member. And I look at our business now, and the business has turned slowly more on my responsibilities as my dad has gotten older. And he's happy to push that my way as a 50-year-old. He was not so happy when I was 20. So it's a different business. You have to, for he and I, it ultimately came down to, I always had to understand that he was my boss. And I may not agree with something that he says, but he is my boss. And from that standpoint, I have to understand that and be respectful to that at all times.
So I want to wrap up and just have everyone give their one piece of advice that they want to make sure that these kids know today. And then we'll break for pizza. Please fill out your feedback surveys. That tells us what we need to do differently. And we want to make sure that you guys are getting a lot out of these classes, because the library people do look at the scores and determine whether or not we want to keep these sort of things going on in the future. So it's very important that you give us feedback that we can use. And also, after you're done with those, if you can just either put them in the bins next to pizza or bring them to the center of the chairs. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. If any of you got the index cards that we gave some of you at the front desk, if you could just leave them on your chairs, we'll pick those up as well.
Or put them in the box. All right, thank
Wait,
you.
wait, wait. I have one last question.
So, I looked up entrepreneurship this weekend just to kind of redefine what the current definition of it is. And it says a person who organizes and manages any enterprise. From that standpoint, you need to know that you're all entrepreneurs at one level or another. It's not a switch to turn on and off. Okay? You don't just decide one day I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Every moment of your life that you've lived thus far, every moment of your life that you're going to live from this point on is about entrepreneurship. Where you fit on that scale is something that you'll determine at some point in time. So, you're going to school, you're attending something like this, you're engaged, you're doing everything you need to do to be an entrepreneur. So, congratulations, all.
It's really great to see all of you here. I see your eyes and you're really curious, and it's good. As a generation above you, or 2 generations above you, it's refreshing to see. And all I can tell you guys is dream. Don't be afraid to dream. Dream about anything and everything. Because if you want it bad enough, you can do it. There's many times, many naysayers told me you're never going to make it. It's too hard. There's too much competition. There's this or that. If you want something bad enough and you have the desire and the dream to do it, you'll make it happen. Good luck to you.
I would say think big and then take baby steps. Sometimes if you look at something that seems overwhelming, because it's like, well, how could I possibly do that? It's such a big thing. It would take so much for me to get there. Any step that you take towards that, it's just a lot of small steps to get you to where you want to be. So break it out that way, and it's a lot easier. Good luck.
There's so many different things we can all say, but when I started reaching out, I reached out to a community member in Redwood City who had a lot of successful businesses. And after talking to him for about 5 minutes and telling him my idea, he just looked at me and said, if it is to be, it is up to me. He said, it's up to you. Now go do it. And I just thought that was so profound. I love that saying. So just remember that.
What makes a real successful entrepreneur? Very, very easy. Don't look back. Look ahead.
The only thing I would say, guys, is be fluid. You have to understand that you don't have all the answers, and probably that's one of the biggest things, because as an entrepreneur, you're always learning, and you have to be open to new ideas as well. Thank you.
So weird sitting here, and Georgie was on the cover of the First Spectrum magazine.
George used to be the mayor.
Yeah, she's the ex-mayor. Yeah. I'm looking at her going, wow, that was really weird.
So I don't know if the panel would like to stay for a little bit in case people are too shy to ask in front of the whole room. If they have specific questions, that would be great.
All right, thank you everybody for coming, but I do have a couple more things to ask you. Make sure you put all your pencils and other materials in these boxes. Put all your papers in the boxes by the pizza. Make sure you fill out all your survey forms all the way. Also, the pizza's not there, so you have to wait until after talking. Ha, I got you. So make sure you put all your papers over there, just because it's easier. Don't come along, put them on the floor. Yeah, that's about it. All right, thank you.
So let's give a big round of applause again to all the business people that came.